Hello, Namaskar viewers. I am Sanjeev Pandya welcoming you to this week's edition of the Business Talk with AJ right here on ITV Gold. This is the show brings you all the latest and the greatest business stories from all over the world for you to know and for you to keep track of it, and we are so happy to do that for you. The show is brought to you by Sai CPS Services, a complete accounting firm, and also they are the advisor on your money, where to invest it in order to save taxes. Sai CPS Services, they do the best in what they do: personal taxes, corporate taxes, or even advising you on where to invest money to save money on your taxes and all the other tax related matters. Also, if you want to start a business, if you want to open the company, what kind of company you should open and what is the right entity for you. So they are the one with the bookkeeping, payroll, and full-fledged services. Multiple locations in state of New Jersey. You can reach them by dialing 908-380-6876. That's a 908-380-6876, or visit saicpsservices.com. With that note, I'd like to welcome Mr. AJ of Sai CPS Services to this show, The Business Talk with AJ.
Thank you, Sanjeevji. Thank you for the kind introduction.
You're very welcome. Good to have you. And the top story is stocks. Lately, stocks have been declining. They're in a declining mode because just a couple of days ago, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell announced that they will not increase the rate. It was anticipated that they may increase it 25 basis points or 50 basis points. But Jerome Powell made it very clear that economy is on a recovery track. There is no recession in the near side. So therefore, Fed decided not to raise interest rate, and that news apparently did not go too well with the Wall Street.
Absolutely, Sanjeevji. So Wall Street works based on the expectation. If things are happening the way they are expecting it to happen, then the Wall Street is doing well. When something does not go as they are expecting, that's when they start having the problem. So Federal Chairman Mr. Powell, when they did not increase the rate, and we want our viewers to know the current rate, prime rate, is 8.5%. By not increasing the rate, they are signaling the market that the recession is not coming, which is a good sign. With all the inflation talks that are going in the market, if you take the gas price out, a lot of people were expecting the prime rate to be increased mainly because of the high inflation. But the inflation is being caused by the high gas prices. If you take the gas price out, the inflation is really not that bad. And that's what Mr. Powell said for not increasing the prime rate. So which is a good sign for the home buyers, for the borrowers. If you have to take money, increased prime rate, increased interest rate means increased lending rate for everybody in the market.
Absolutely, which is very true. And apparently, Wall Street did not like the news because they want to make sure that investors get higher return. So that's why stocks are sliding right now, but hopefully it will pick up a pace and it will be just, adding more and more points, and will be going into black instead of red. Also, Fed Chairman Powell made it very clear that economy is doing well, and one of the things is that the jobless claims last week fell to their lowest level since January, which is a good sign because that barometer is the strength of the economy. That tells you how economy is doing. So, sometimes I get surprised when I hear and see the news that many corporations are laying off individuals, but still unemployment rate is significantly low.
You are right. But what we hear in the news is all about the top 500 companies, top 100 companies. The real economy is not being run by these top 100 or top 500 companies, Sanjeevji. The real economy is being run through mom and pop type of shop, through small businesses. Small businesses is what makes America America. So the barometer that we talk about, unemployment rate, is a true measure of can you find a job if you have to find a job. It's not really how many people are being laid off by Wells Fargo or the other banks, because those are the big companies.
I see signs everywhere, hiring.
Absolutely,
hiring,
I agree. So small businesses are still hiring. Small businesses are actually doing much better. There was a pent-up demand due to COVID that people were not coming out. If you see the restaurants, the grocery store, everybody, the retail market is picking up. Retail market is doing very well. That's why the government is concerned about the inflation a higher inflation, which is mainly driven by the gas price. But if you leave the gas prices out, even then the economy is doing better than expected.
So we are in a mix of everything. In a way, okay, Fed decided not to raise interest rates, one thing. Stocks are not doing good, that's another thing. A job market is good, unemployment rate is really low, that is really good news. But then, because, interest rates for the mortgage have gone up so much, right? Some economists are predicting that after disappointing home sales figures in last 2 weeks or last month or so, they are saying mortgage rate could go up to 8%.
Yes.
They're right now around 7%, a little more than a 7% as well. And now there's a little relief because it hasn't gone up. So it will stay around 7%. But home sales are very, very disappointing, and that could lead mortgage rate to go up to 8%.
You're 100% right. There are a lot of mixed signals. When we see higher inflation, we typically don't see the higher interest rate. When we see the higher interest rate, we don't expect the home prices to be going up. So there are a lot of mixed signals, and there are a lot of drivers around it. If you specifically talk about the home prices have increased almost by 4% year over year compared to last year in the month of August. Now you wonder, when the interest rate is so high, when it's so difficult to buy a home, how come the home price sustain that high price? It's all because of the availability. The homes are not available. The inventory is really, really low. So people are still able to get away by asking anything they want for their home.
Yep.
And people are buying it.
When we talk about home, I want to divert your attention, bring your attention to home electronics. All right. Why home electronics? Because there is this company who's been very, very steady and really has a real good word in the market, and their products are always very reliable and much liked about everybody else. And now that company, most of the companies go public, but this is a company that they're coming out of the public, and now they're going to be a private firm. And I'm talking about a company called Toshiba. That's a Japanese company, and after 74 years, they're coming off the Japanese stock market.
Absolutely. It's a big news, as you rightly said. We have seen a lot of news for the companies. I mean, last week itself, we were talking about a company, one of the biggest company, going to New York Stock Exchange. Now we see a company in Japan coming out of the public exchange and going private. So Japan Private Equity Fund is buying 3/4 of the company, and 1/4 of the company will be held by private investors. But the company will be delisted from the Japan Stock Exchange as early as by the end of this year. So it's one of the rare things when you see such a large company, billions of dollars worth of company, going private.
And that's we're talking about deal $14 billion worth of deal, from going public to private. Normally, these kind of stories I haven't heard in a long time.
It's not common. It's very, very common.
It's a very
Even
uncommon.
For the private investors, private equity funds, when you talk about $1 billion, $14 billion, even if they're taking 3-4, more than $10 billion, somebody is signing up to buy a company from the stock exchange.
All right, I just want to mention some of the facts about this deal because it's a very interesting deal. Toshiba. Now this deal puts 148-year-old electronics company. That's what it is, Toshiba, right? Electronics to power stations maker in domestic hands after years of battles with overseas investors and very active investors as well. Toshiba is set to be delisted as early as December of this year, and the buyout offer was accepted by Toshiba in March, valuing the industrial conglomerate at 2 trillion yen, which is $13.5 billion.
That's a lot of money, $14 billion.
Yes. All right. So now, after 74 years being public, Toshiba goes private in Japan. There must be something about Japan, because one of the most highly respected stock investor, a guru that we call Warren Buffett, has decided to invest more money in Japan.
So the story is not complete unless we tell you, other than US, in all the 200 plus countries, Japan is the highest invested country by Mr. Buffett.
Yes.
So his investment is in US, but all the other countries, he decides where he wants to invest the money. So he is believing Japan's economy will be increasing faster than anywhere else in the world. So Japan is on number 2 after US when it comes to the investment for Mr. Buffett.
There's, and then whatever Warren Buffett says, investors
Absolutely.
follow, because he is a one person, he actually practices what he preaches. If he says, I'm going to invest in so and so company and so country, he does it first. And he does a major investment, and then the rest of the investors follow. So now, let's say in a way, Japan stock market and Japanese companies are getting more money from US, and the more investors will follow. So that certainly is a very interesting news coming from Warren Buffett. Now moving on, let's talk about US company. AJ, I just want to bring this attention. It's nice. Oracle.
Yep.
Oracle is also one of the most successful companies here in US, expects to generate about $65 billion in annual revenue by fiscal year 2026, in about 3 years. And they announced it, 65 billion. All right. So
in
this
1
is,
year.
No, by end of 2026.
But this will be in 1 year?
In 1 year, yes, in 1 year, all right. And this announcement was made by Executive Vice President of Oracle, and this was they had annual conference earlier in a week, and they said that they are confident the company will reach its revenue target as well as earlier forecast for a 45% operating margin by fiscal year 2026, and annual growth in earning per share of more than 10%.
Wow.
What does that mean?
That means a lot of people will read this news, think about it, and will try to invest into it.
There
so the Oracle
you go,
shares will suddenly go up.
You
Because
got it.
By creating this type of market hype,
Yes.
you're creating an expectation.
Yes.
You're increasing the stock. So before actually it happens, the stock price will
You're
accommodate.
you're halfway there anyway.
Exactly.
In 3 years.
The stock price will increase and accommodate
Correct.
the growth that's coming out.
All right. So now that is interesting stories and good stories. With that note, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we got a lot of interesting stories, and of course from India as well. Right after these messages, don't go away. Welcome back to the second half of the Business Talk with AJ. In the first half, we talked about very interesting business stories, and hopefully you have gotten enough of that, and we're going to continue to bring you more business stories. But first thing first, and most important thing, September 29th, which is Friday, Sai CPA Services, who actually sponsors this show, the Business Talk, and as well as the Tax Talk show, which will begin in January 2024. Sai CPA Services, they actually do offer a free seminars, informative seminars, and they really go out and talk to people and educate them about taxes, because tax laws changes every now and then, and for a single individual it's very, very difficult to keep track of it. So what they do, that they personally go out and then personally talk to the people. Everyone's tax situation, tax bracket is different. So Sai CPA Services advises them, and one such seminar to inform you, to educate you, and to advise you by Sai CPA Services. That seminar is scheduled to happen on Friday, September 29th at 6 p.m. at ITV Auditorium, right here on this TV channel's auditorium location, which is on Oak Tree Road, ITV studio, next to Big Cinemas on Oak Tree Road. And you are invited. All you need to do is go to eventbrite.com and register yourself and be part of that September 29th event. Mr. AJ Kumar is going to give you some very useful tax tips, and after that, personally, you can meet him or any of his staff members to know more about taxes from Sai CPA Services.
So if you are local, it's a golden opportunity for you to learn. We'll be talking about commonly missed tax deductions as well as millionaires' tax loopholes. Everybody talks about, Sanjeevji, that these rich people, they don't pay taxes. But it's not about why they don't pay taxes. We need to learn how they get away by not paying taxes legally. So we'll be talking about a lot of plans that are legally available to everybody in this country. So that section is millionaires tax loophole. Will give you 10 sections, including carried interest, captive insurance, foreign bank accounts, and a lot of information when it comes to millionaires tax loopholes. We'll also be talking about commonly missed tax deduction that everybody can use. So if you are in New York, New Jersey, this tri-state area, we are in Addison at this studio on Friday, September 29th, we'll have this show, commonly missed tax deductions and millionaires tax loopholes.
Okay, interesting. Now you just mentioned something about being local. All right. So if local people, this will be very helpful. Or wherever you are, this is a free tax seminar, and that way you get a chance to meet AJ CPA and his staff members also, in order for you to get ready for the taxes. You know, your tax filing is going to be maybe 4 or 5 months away now, so might as well get ready with it. When you say local, I just want to say the local is important. That means in-house, in-country people are important than outsiders. The reason I'm saying this is because I am bringing a story here, and that has to do with the US aid to Ukraine. Now, Congress had earmarked $113 billion.
That's a lot of money.
They had earmarked, all right, in 2022. So far, roughly, I would say $46 billion have been sent to Ukraine, you know, through different categories, military aid, humanitarian aid, this aid, that aid, in order to help out Ukraine against a war fight with Russia. US is the country, number one country, who has given maximum number of maximum amount to Ukraine. There are 10 countries, mainly European countries, who are part of NATO. So now my point to you is that Ukraine President Zelensky was in town, was in New York and Washington DC just a couple of days ago, and of course he has requested more money. So President Joe Biden has asked Congress to give additional $24 billion.
Wow.
On top of roughly 46 billion already spent. And I told you, 113 billion put on a side.
Yep.
Now my point to you is that if $113 billion is put on a side, and we're giving this much money away to Ukraine, and here at home we have problems where auto workers are on strike. We have an issue coming up October 1st. That's a deadline for government shutdown. Government needs to fund their employees, and that hasn't been decided. And we are, what, 10 days away from October 1st?
Absolutely, and the story is not over unless you mention the controversy
Yes.
that's associated with all this funding to Ukraine.
Correct.
And Mr. Biden and his son. So that's the key angle over here. We are funding a country in a war. And US has its own problem. And it all depends on the government. Mr. Biden, the people who are making the decision. I know if the government was different, we wouldn't be in this situation. But we're not talking about hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. We're talking about $1 billion, $100 billion going out of the country to help somebody else when we need help in this country. Small businesses are struggling. Getting loan is very difficult. Prime rate is 8.5%. UAW is on strike. The government will have a shutdown by October 1st if we don't have the budget approved. And let's give $100 billion to Ukraine.
There you
How
go.
does it make sense?
Unbelievable. Let me tell you what $113 billion means to US and the US residents. Okay, interesting facts. The $113 billion, it's a little more than US spends in 1 year on the Department of the Interior, and a little less than it spends on the Department of Commerce.
Wow.
According to official government sites, I'm giving you all this information from official government, excuse me, giving you all the information from official government sites. The larger Pentagon budget is authorized to be $886 billion next year. Okay. Wow. And the US also spends trillions each year on its safety net with programs like Social Security and Medicare. So I'm saying $886 billion budget and more money, other money in Medicare and Social Security. $113 billion to earmark to help out Ukraine. That's a lot of money. That is going to put a big dent on our national debt that we're going to pass it on to our children and grandchildren.
And then it will come out of the Social Security or come out of some benefit that the government could have offered to you, to small businesses. But it's all about government politics.
It's
now.
all about government policies. Let's see if a government is going to shut down or remain open October 1st. No matter what happens, let me tell you, okay, IRS examiners, IRS auditors will be working throughout government shutdown.
Absolutely. So IRS is a money collecting tool for the government. The IRS does not get shut down.
Exactly.
That's how they're collecting money from people like you and me. So their auditors, they keep working.
Exactly.
So count on it.
They're going to be keep working. And talk about keep working, US government and the Canadian government, they are working on issues that are just unbelievable. They both are working opposite of each other instead of working with each other. Because what happened, India had organized successful G20 summit in India. It worked out very well. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was there. And on the way back to Canada, of course, Justin Trudeau's official plane had some kind of malfunction and needed repair. He ended up staying 2 days more in India. And Indian government, Prime Minister Modi, did not offer their jet to Justin Trudeau to go back to Canada. Anyway, now what happened? Justin Trudeau, just 2 days ago in Canadian Parliament, announced that murder of a pro-Khalistani Nijjar, that's his name, pro-Khalistani Nijjar, that murder occurred in June, and Justin Trudeau mentioned that in a parliament that he has information that Indian government was behind that killing, even though he did not provide any evidence, nothing.
He seems to be saying that there are credible evidences that his government has, that Indian government authorities may be involved with the killing of a pro-Khalistani person, Mr. Nijjar, who happens to be a Canadian citizen. So that's why there is a spat going on between the two countries. In Canada, Indian embassy officials have been sent back to India. India has sent back the Canadian embassy officials back to Canada. There is no visa between the two countries, at least it's on hold for the time being. So the story is still cooking up, but I mean, it gets very, very interesting very soon just by one statement that somebody made somewhere.
Exactly, and no proof. No proof has been given. Indian government immediately replied to this blame, saying that it's absurd and motivated. Why motivated? Because Canada is a home to pro-Khalistani members. There are several organizations. One is it's called SJF, Sikh Justice Front. That's what it is. And then there is a Khalistani organization. So Canada is big when it comes to Khalistani supporters. So India said no. Now India has suspended visas for Canadian nationals as diplomatic spat between the two countries that AJ just mentioned. India has urged its citizens in Canada to remain vigilant.
Absolutely.
All right, and warning them of politically condoned hate crimes in a travel advisory. So be very careful. And the travel advisory comes after this claim. And by the way, that terrorist who was killed in June in British Columbia named Hardeep Singh Nijjar, he was a Sikh Canadian citizen. In 94, 98, he went to jail in India. He's from Jalandhar in Punjab. He went to jail in India. He came out of the jail, right? He came out of the jail, and then on a phony passport, on the passport name, I think Ravi Sharma, he managed to flew to Canada. He came to Canada.
Citizenship over there.
Correct. After he was there. When he got into Canada, within 1 year, exactly 11 months later, he married to a Canadian citizen girl. And then he applied for Canadian citizenship, which was denied. But then, all of a sudden, in 2011, 2012, the immigration officer or minister in Canada announced that Nijjar has become a Canadian citizen. How he became Canadian citizen, no one knows.
Wow.
Because of his past when he was in the jail. And that's when India, after Modi government came in, they declared him as one of the most wanted men. So this gentleman, because a few years ago, a decade ago, there was a bomb blast at one of the theaters in Punjab, and Nijjar was behind him.
Wow.
I read the entire story. But now Canadian government blaming Indian government for this reason, that is definitely, and I think they're motivated because Khalistani supporters who actually hold a major control in Canadian Parliament to Justin Trudeau's party.
Wow.
They are pressuring him. So
That's
this is really, really getting nasty, and I hope it really doesn't bother our Canadian, our Indians settled in the Canada. All right, talk about India. India actually achieved a very, very historic feat in the new parliament building. They just moved in a new parliament building on the day of Ganesh Chaturthi, which was, I think, Wednesday earlier in the week. And first thing they did is that they approved this women reservation bill, which had been around for years and years, never got it done. But finally, Prime Minister Modi, his government and opposition support is there. He got it done.
They have been talking about it for years. You're 100% right. And it never really touched the Lok Sabha floor. It never really got into the actual voting type of situation. But thank God it's approved now. Now the new rule is 1/3 of the Lok Sabha members will be women.
Yes.
And if you remember, in once the bill passes the Lok Sabha, it has to go to Rajya Sabha, it has to go to President. So it's not done yet, but it's a good step in the right direction. If Lok Sabha passes it, more than likely, especially when Lok Sabha passed it unanimously, all the parties have agreed to it, then chances are very high Rajya Sabha will pass and President will sign it.
I've got a breaking news for you. Rajya Sabha has passed the bill.
Very nice.
All right, so Lok Sabha, it was passed. Rajya Sabha, it was passed. It happened today. And Rajya Sabha Chairman Jagdeep Dhankar announced it that Rajya Sabha has passed the bill, and it actually happened on India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji's Tithi birthday. There is an Indian calendar.
Right.
So according to Indian calendar, his birthday was on Thursday. So it happened on Thursday, and actually his real birthday is September 17th. Okay. So Rajya Sabha has passed the bill. Immediately it will go on to the President's desk, and by the time you watch this show or the repeat of the show, most likely President will have signed on that bill, because President herself is a woman.
Absolutely.
Draupadi Murmu.
Absolutely. So 1/3 of the members of the Lok Sabha will be women.
Yes. So that now you know that this bill has passed in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and the bill now will go to President's desk and it will be passed soon. And then 33% reservation for women in Lok Sabha and the state assemblies will become official. When it becomes official, we'll let you know in the next episode. With that note, we come to an end of the Business Talk with AJ right here on ITV. AJ, thank you so very much for your time,
Thank
your
you.
guidance, and your information. Remember, September 29th, we'd like to see you all to attend the seminar. You'll see the flyer on the screen. Make a note of it. See you all. I'm Sanjeev Pandya, wishing you all happy days ahead. So long.